And you were listening to Season 6 of the award-winning Christian Outdoors podcast with your host, Pete Rogers. All right, everyone. Welcome back to Christian Outdoors podcast. I'm Pete Rogers, your host, and I have with me John Goodwin is joining me as co-host again today. And once again, we have with us the infamous legend in his own mind, greatest muzzleloading hunter ever, Tony Smotherman from CVA. So, Tony, John, thank you for joining me here today.
Well, that may have been a bit strong entrance, but I appreciate it.
Just a little bit strong, All right. Before we get into the show, though, listeners, I want to encourage you. You know, we've been running ads in our shows for quite some time, and we do that for the companies that support our podcast and our mission and our ministry here at Christian Outdoors. It's very important to us that you support the companies that support us. If it were not for them believing in Christian Outdoors and what we're doing in our mission, it would be next to impossible for us to continue to produce this show. So the companies that are supporting us, please support them. And we're coming into hunting season now, and we're supported by firearms companies. CVA was the first company to ever believe in us and to support us, and we're eternally grateful to them. And so I'm always thrilled to have Tony on the show. He's a dear friend and just a great human being. So, Tony, thank you for joining us here on Christian Outdoors. Let's get started with this. Before we get into the main topic, let's get started with this as to, you've been going through on the personal side some changes the last couple of years with moving and getting a whole new system set up, new business ventures, new things of that nature. Why don't you get us caught up on some of that and tell us how that has affected your faith journey as well?
So before we do a deep dive into that, because that can be a rabbit hole, and I am notorious for running down rabbit holes, I just want to say, number one, it's an honor. Like you just mentioned, CVA was the first to come on as a sponsor for Christian Outdoors podcast. And it's an honor for me personally and also our brand to have been a part since the beginning of Christian Outdoors podcast. And for all the listeners out there, you guys are listening to one of the best podcasts in this country. I get the great opportunity for what I do here at the CVA brand to be guests on podcasts across the country. But this one here is a great listen and also will make you a better person at the end of the day, which, as we know, this land needs a lot of help in different ways. And this podcast will lead you to being a better individual because you are listening to amazing host and co-host now. So I appreciate the opportunity to be on here. But yes, as we go through life and we get older, there's always trials and tribulations. There's ups and downs and heaves and hoes, and we can come up with a pile of different ways to say that. I've been on this earth 51 years and been extremely blessed to do what I've done over the years. And I've been pretty solid up until last year. I just had this feeling that there was a change coming, and I don't see the future real well. But for some reason this last year, there was something that was pushing me to go a different direction in life, and not different direction as far as business plans or things like that. But I grew up and lived my whole life on the same farm that I was born on, just outside of Nashville, Tennessee, and just outside of Nashville, being 30 miles southeast of Nashville in a small community called Murfreesboro. And when I was a kid, it was small town life, but because Tennessee is a great state, the taxes are great. The human beings there that are amazing. It has made everybody else realize that Tennessee is a great place. And that especially escalated during the COVID pandemic or the Rona or whatever that business was. It made people understand that living in big cities and working in cubicles every day was probably not the coolest thing in life. And a lot of folks started coming to Tennessee, which made the folks in Tennessee not so happy. But nonetheless, again, everything happens for a reason. So the stuff that was going on and the massive development that was going on in our area, in our community that I grew up in, well, basically changed the dynamics of that community that I knew as a young man. And, the going down the road and waving at a person that passes you, whether you know them or don't know them, has always been a thing for me. And I remember specifically as a young man driving down or riding very young, riding down the road with my dad, and he would wave at somebody, and my first response would be, "Oh, who was that, Dad?" "I don't know." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So
Yeah.
next car passes, and I'll be like, "Who's that, Dad?" He goes, "Yeah, I don't know." I was like, "Well, if you don't know these folks, why you keep waving at them?" He goes, "That's just what you do. That's just what you're supposed to do. Just wave at them."
The two-finger wave off the hand.
I get that.
It's a two-finger wave.
Yeah,
Two-finger
yeah.
wave off the steering wheel.
Just an acknowledgement that they're a human being and they're coming past you, kind of thing. Just a gesture of good faith. And I knew, we'll say a year and a half ago, that when I would drive down the road that I was born on, and I would literally see somebody come in my direction, and I would, in my mind, go, "I ain't gonna wave at them because I know they ain't waving back." I knew I was in trouble at that point. And that literally was the clicker that made me decide that being at that location where I grew up at, that community I grew up in, was not what I remembered it being. And it was starting to harden me a little bit because of the influx of people coming in, which that's just part of it. And now I have become one of those people that have moved and come into a new area. So because of that, I felt just a really pull on my heart that I was hardening and I need to find someplace else to be. Life is too short to live dark inside like I was starting to get. So I now live in south central Iowa, right north of the Missouri border. Number one, the deer hunting is pretty good here. I'm sure you probably heard about this state. But I love the West, so I feel like that I should have probably been born a long time ago and lived in Wyoming or Montana somewhere. Fortunate enough, my wonderful wife that I've been married to for quite a long time is from the great state of Wyoming. So we get to frequent there quite often to go see the in-laws. So coming here to Iowa got us to some really amazing deer hunting. It got us 50% closer to Wyoming and Montana. So I can be there in a day's drive now versus 2 days drive. And I have a little bit of roots here in this region that I live in now. As you mentioned, muzzleloading is kind of my life and has been since I was 20 years old. I worked for another muzzleloader manufacturer back in the day called Night Muzzleloaders, which is based out of south central Iowa, about 15 miles from where I'm sitting in my bunkhouse here right now. So this area that I live in, I was in and out of this area for about 15 years while I worked for the night muzzleloading operation. So it wasn't like I was just up and moving my home front and moving to a foreign country. I kind of already knew this place a little bit. It'd been many years ago. I've worked at CVA since 2009, so I've been here for a minute also. But the great thing is when I come up here to test my own self to see if I could possibly thinking about living somewhere else. When I pulled back into town, and I live in Corden, Iowa, when I pulled back into town, oddly enough, it was just like it was in 2009, the last time I saw Corden, Iowa. So that was a good thing. We're here in Wayne County. We have no red lights in the entire county.
Oh, wow.
That's something.
Yeah.
No red lights in the entire county. Everything was the same now as it was then. The greatest thing about this area is I feel like I am back 40 years ago from the community that I grew up in. Everybody waves when they see you at the Casey's. Of course, if you know Iowa, you know Casey's. If they see you at Casey's, they say, "Good morning, how you doing? Good to see you." And they really legitimately mean it, which is so impressive. And I needed that because I was, like I said, I was getting a little tainted by all the incoming people there in my local area. And I needed a refresh. And this place here has absolutely been that refresh. So it was very hard for me to basically pick up everything I owned and my roots. And the farm that I lived on was generational. My sons are fourth generation living on that piece of property. So it was very tough and emotional, but I firmly believe that the man upstairs had a plan for me. And even though it was very difficult and hard for me to push through that, that being the feeling of leaving my home turf was very tough for a while. And I may have shed a tear or two along the way trying to make that decision. But again, there was just this pulling inside of me, not per se to be specifically here in Corden, Iowa, but find a new location. And it ended up just kept pulling me back to South Central Iowa and the place that I kind of knew back when I was a younger man. So a lot of great memories here. And now we're making a whole bunch of new ones. We picked up several farms here. We have an amazing place here. Again, it kind of shows you how the man upstairs had a plan. I had this giant criteria of a place that I wanted. And if I didn't find that exact place, that was my reason to say I ain't going to do it. And dealing with real estate agents across northern Missouri and southern Iowa, we went through a whole bunch of different places. And then I'm like, nope, if it ain't exactly this, I ain't doing it. So I kept trying to put up roadblocks so I wouldn't have to do it. And then o'clock on a Friday night, you better find a way to 911 it up here. I'm like, are you sure? He said, I'm telling you, if you drew it out on a piece of paper, you drew this place out for you. I'm like, well, if that's the case, man upstairs knows my criteria because him and I have talked a bunch here lately. Let's make a drive up. And so on the way up, of course, my bride was not fully dove into the relocation situation. She loved Tennessee. We have two boys that are still in Tennessee right now. So leaving the boys was making her feel pretty concrete to Tennessee. The whole way up to Iowa, and from my Tennessee door to this Iowa door that I'm at now was about 10 and a half, 11 hours time you hit a few gas stops and some food. I'm not sure she ever looked forward. I think she looked out the window facing away from me the full 10, 11 hour drive. She wouldn't speak to me. She wouldn't talk to me. She didn't say a word because she didn't want nothing to do with it. So I was like, my gosh, I'm definitely being put through some more trials and tribulations here. But I said, the man upstairs knows what my criteria is, what I wanted for a home, a farm, a place to bring my wife and relocate to. And he put it flat in front of us. And as soon as we saw it, we were like, absolutely. This is for sure the place. This was ordered specifically for us. And just so you're aware, my wife absolutely loves this place now.
That's good.
So the man upstairs had his hand on me and her for quite a long time. So it's a wonderful blessing. And, sometimes you just got to kind of go with those feelings and know the man upstairs has got a plan for you. You just don't see it just yet sometimes.
Yeah. So was she sold when she saw it like you were? Or did it take time for her to warm up to that?
She was like this. So she did really like it a lot, but it did take a little time. And it was kind of the same scenario for her. I had been fighting the let's relocate in my mind and in my heart for probably 8 months to a year prior to her. So when I was committed to move, she had not quite got there just yet. And then once and even when we bought the place, even when we bought this place, we've had this place just a year and about 4 months now. For the first 6 months, she was only up here about once a month, and that was only for 2 or 3 days. So I was mentally understood where she was at because I've been going through that for a year prior to just in my day-to-day life. So I would bring her up for 3 or 4 days and let her kind of marinate and go to town and go to the grocery store and hit the Casey's twice a day just to kind of, again, marinate in that scenario. And then after 6 months, she's like, I'm good. Let's roll. Yeah. I understand the value of quiet living, country life.
Yeah. So does she talk to you on the way back down?
You know what? The ride home was a little better than the ride up. I can promise you that. Yes.
That's good.
Well, you know how the females are, where they got to find a hair space and a place to do their nails, and they got to find their doctor, and they got to do all that because that's important. If I don't have anywhere to get my hair done, dentist, all those things, you got to find those. And they're like, I don't know. I have to change all that. Worry about all that stuff. It's going to be so difficult. And from what you told me before, all that just lined right up.
It is funny because that was a real concern for me too, as a husband and provider and a protector of my wife. I was concerned for those things that I would say she felt was a necessity, but in fact was a necessity for her. I had necessary things that I wanted in our home, in a bunkhouse, and on the farm. I had those things, but I wasn't worried about a hair cutter or dentist or fingernail person. But I knew on her radar that was a concern for her, so it was a concern for me too. And when you drive through this small community we live in, at whatever the speed limit is, we'll say through downtown 35 miles an hour. So if you go through downtown at 35 miles an hour, you go, there ain't nothing here. But after we marinated for a minute, we realized that everything is here. We have an amazing healthcare system. We have an amazing non-traditional medicine doctor. We have dentists. She's found a nail lady. She's found hair gal. And the great thing is, of course, obviously being from a big city, it's like you got a 30-minute drive to town. You got 14 red lights. You got to wait in line. You got to get an appointment a month in advance, all that kind of stuff just due to population. Here, there's none of that. And these people here are amazing. So she can go get her nails done tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and not have to make an appointment or nothing because they're just ready. There's not a waiting line scenario. So yes, it has turned out to be the most stunning. I almost think we found a fountain of youth, to be honest with you. I feel like I'm going backwards now that I'm getting younger because my stress level is pretty much slim and none. And the man upstairs put us in the place that he wanted us, and it is for sure the right place.
That's great. That's great.
One of the, as you're saying this, Tony, and one of the things that's, I think, the hardest for believers, for Christians who are trying their best to trust God for their future, is that patience that we have that we have to have, because we want an answer right now. God, I'm struggling with this. Mm-hmm. I feel like I need to relocate. I feel like I need to move to this area. I feel like this, but I want to make sure I'm making the right decision. And that waiting can be so hard and so challenging. Is this where it is? Is this what you want from me? And you have, as an example, you have this piece of real estate pops up and you go and look at it, it's like, I just don't. And then this other one pops up. I really like that one. But then another one, and if you jump on this one too early, then maybe you're not exactly where you need to be. And that being patient and trying to tune in to what God really wants for us can be a really difficult thing to do.
And that is as true as it ever gets, Pete. I went through that terribly because I want to say I'm an instantaneous gratification kind of individual, but coming from a business background, yes, I do work in the outdoor industry. I do work for CVA, but I also run other companies that I've own and have owned. So I like to dictate. I like to steer the ship, or at least feel like I am. Anyways, I'm probably not steering it, but I feel like I am. So it makes me sleep better at night. And then getting to this situation in life where I felt as vulnerable as I have ever felt, and like, I won't say out of control, but my hand was not on the steering wheel scenario. Mm-hmm. But because of great influences like you in my life, and having folks like you in my corner made me understand very clearly that sometimes I may not have my hand fully tightened on the steering wheel, and that's okay. Yeah. And I'm telling you, Pete, that was as tough as it's ever been to understand that I'm not steering my ship or controlling my destiny. Yeah. And I had to put it in the hands of the man upstairs, and that was tough for me. Not that I didn't think the man upstairs would know what's going on. I'm just not used to relinquishing that kind of control, or I don't know, power out of my own, the control of my own destiny kind of thing. I don't know, but.
Yeah, I think you see that though, Tony, with a lot of entrepreneurs, because we know that if we don't do it or make sure it gets done, it's not going to get done. Mm-hmm. And as an entrepreneur, the whole business relies on your leadership, and you being an entrepreneur, and me being one, in the past and somewhat now, it's hard to say, I got to let this just sit for a while. I got to let this just sit and wait and see. Because in the entrepreneur world, we got to make decisions right now.
Right now.
Right now. It's got to be decided right now. Right now. And then when you're looking for something for your future, it's like, how do I wait? How do I wait? How do I be patient? You know, it's just hard. But I think you said it well, though, that when we do that, God's plan for us is always bigger and better than our plan for us. And that patience pays off.
Well, and he's always on time too, right? And that's like part that I've struggled with over the years is my timing. And what I want sometimes is well behind God's timing or well ahead.
Yeah.
And trying to, and that's hard when he's like, "Hey, slow down, dude," or speed up. Either way, right?
I was going to say it's a good time to transition into one of the other reasons that you're here, Tony. I think the first part of this show is very important to the listeners who are going through changes in their life. And that change can be relocating. It can be a new job. It can be empty nesting, kids going to college, whatever, some kind of big change going on, and how important it is to wait on God's timing. And I think you've covered that very well. But one of the things that reasons that Tony's here is anybody that's been in the hunting world for any time, and specifically in the muzzleloading hunting, as we do, that CVA has led the way in muzzleloading technology for years and years. They have just gone. I mean, everybody's plays catch up to CVA. CVA innovates, CVA creates, they invent, they design things that other companies are just still trying to catch up on what was done 15 years ago by CVA. And they're doing it again right now with this new product that's coming out in September of 2025. And Tony's here to explain that to us. So Tony, why don't you take the lead right now and explain to us what CVA is doing right now?
Well, so just like you said, CVA has been a manufacturer of muzzleloaders since 1971. So we've been around for quite a long time. I feel like we have figured it out. But in the muzzleloading world, one thing that I've noticed that we've been very slow to change, just muzzleloading in general. It's been 50 caliber. Well, it was 54 caliber back in the 70s, and then it migrated over a decade and a half to a 50 caliber. Then the 45 caliber come in and heaved and hoed for the last 2 decades, the last 20 years plus. So it's been a slow migration in technology. Of course, we're talking, we got a webcam. I have a cell phone that's sitting beside me here that's basically a computer at the end of the day. So we have a ton of technology, and everything that we touch, see, feel, drive, everything, technology has touched all that in a very rapid pace in my lifetime. But muzzleloaders have been slow to change, and I'm not quite sure why that is that case, but it is. But several years ago, we come out with our first bolt action muzzleloader called a Paramount. It was the first introduction of bolt action and long range muzzleloading, a thing that the world had never seen before. And it helped with, not that we broke the mold and did something different, but technology has started to increase in everything. And that is propellants, that is optics that we're running, better rings and bases. So there were so many things that had basically started piling up that made us, or allowed us the opportunity to move forward with some advancements, and that was the Paramount, our long-range muzzleloader. But earlier we talked about what changed in the world that basically shifted and made me feel like I needed to do something different. Kind of was the same thing for us. When that COVID happened, I decided that I needed to do something else. And we were building the Paramount for 4 years, about 3 years. We were building the Paramount for 3 years. We've been working on it for 5, 2 years behind the scenes, and then 3 years in front where everybody was using that gun. And it was 45 caliber. super amazing, super high ballistic coefficient projectile at 0.33, able to run a powder called Blackhorn 209. And Blackhorn 209 has been around since 2010, but it really never got any accolades until like 2016, 2017 when we started building this Paramount. And it basically single-handedly changed the muzzleloading world. But then COVID happened. And Blackhorn 209 went up 3 prices of what it used to be, which we all know everything we touched kind of did the same thing. So the Blackhorn went price-wise, went out of the roof, and went from $35.99 to $90, and that's for a 10-ounce jug. And then when the demand got so high and the supply got so low, it went from $95 for an 8-ounce jug to $95. I'm sorry, $95 for a 10-ounce jug to $95 to an 8-ounce jug. So same price, less powder, which unfortunately that caused the demise of the Paramount, because the Paramount did not run without the efficiencies of Blackhorn 209. That's super clean, great chamber pressures, no smoke, not hydroscopic, meaning it don't absorb water. But when that powder got hard to get and got very expensive, people started giving us a touch of grief on the Paramount that it couldn't be ran with a different propellant. And it could be, but at that point, a Paramount wasn't a Paramount with Blackhorn 209. And I don't think, and still today can't believe, that Blackhorn 209 almost disappeared for a while and got very hard to find. And I can't believe that we never thought about that. But, you know, other propellants have been around for so long. The 777, or well, back up, GoX, 777, Pyrodex. We've never seen a decline in that. We've never seen basically a change in price in that over the decades it's been here. So we just never put thought that Blackhorn 209 would start to disappear off store shelves. I think a lot of that was to guys like me, because I'll say I hoarded Blackhorn 209 when it started becoming hard to get. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to have Blackhorn 209 to hunt with. That's my jam. So I better get, instead of having 2 jugs on hand, I had 15 jugs on hand. And I know you guys are pointing fingers at me. And if you're listening right now or watching, you're going, oh, you're that guy. You're caused the problem. Yes, I did cause part of that problem. But the man over here, Mr. Pete, did too. And everybody I know everybody I know that ran Blackhorn did the same thing. So it basically disappeared. And so we decided as a brand that was probably a good time to pull the Paramount off the market, because we didn't want people running powders that they shouldn't be running and running 777s and things like that. That made the gun not what it was. So with that said, again, there's always a plan. So we look back now today, as we're going into September of 2025, the Paramount has been, well, it's been off the shelves and pretty quiet for the last 2 years. But in doing that, we have not been sitting on our hands, and we've not been trying to figure out how to manufacture Blackhorn ourselves. We have spent time and dedication specifically to the muzzleloading market that wants a bolt action muzzleloader, that wants a long range muzzleloader, that loves a 45 caliber muzzleloader. So we have created a new CVA bolt action long range muzzleloader called the Endura. It is stunning.
The Endura. Okay.
It's called the Endura.
To look at it.
And depends on where you're at. North,
to look
south,
at it looks like
it's Endura.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And I would say to look at it, it looks like a Paramount. Basically.
It does. So
I'm looking
we
at
didn't
it,
want to make a bunch of big changes to.
It just looks the same.
Yeah, we didn't want to make a bunch of big changes where it freaked everybody out scenario. So what we end up doing is there's several advancements in the Endura other than just a name change. Some of those advancements you won't be able to see unless you study them really hard, because people love the Paramount so much that we didn't want to make an overall exterior design change where they're, in essence, freaks them out a little bit because it's a whole new thing. It looks different, feels different. We stayed with the same look concept that we had before because that design was proven that everybody loved it. But we took time to add advancements to it. Number one, the injection port on the side of the gun where you actually load your primer in. We enlarged that. That was one, I won't say complaint, but conversation that we had at trade shows and through our customer service department, that sometimes if it's especially dead of winter, especially when you're through the Midwest or up north where it does get cold and you got big old fat gloves on, your fingers are now sausages. We enlarged the ejection port a little bit to be able to easily, much easier get in and engage the Veriflame adapter or primer and also get it out. But even on top of that, on the same subject, we actually put in a magnetic bolt face. So when you think of bolt action, you think of putting a shell in per se. If it's a centerfire, rolling the bolt forward. Once the primer or the shell is spent, you roll the bolt up, pull it back, and it brings the casing back out. Well, that's never been the case in the Paramount. So in the Endura, we did put a magnetic bolt face on the front of the bolt, so you can actually take your primer or Veriflame adapter and slide it in and just sit it right on top of the bolt face, roll it forward, engage it, ignite it, pull it up, pull it back, and then it pulls your primer adapter or the Veriflame back out of your breech plug. It does not eject it and throw it out because number one, the Veriflames are reusable, so we don't want to eject it out. It extracts it out for you. So pretty excited about that. Another really big advancement is in the breech plug design itself. So in the breech plug, you have a hole that goes through the middle for you guys that are new to muzzleloading. That's called the flash hole. And because of the amount of Blackhorn that we've always ran in the Paramount, our original bolt action design, we would have flash hole erosion at times. And with this new breech plug design, we lined that flash hole with tungsten carbide. So if it's 32 thousandths inside diameter, when you pull that gun out of the box, it will be 32 thousandths for your life. There will be no wear factor inside the breech plug with this tungsten carbide insert. So that was really high on our radar because we realized that even with a stainless steel breech plug, due to chamber pressures, and what you got to realize is every muzzleloader is basically a open breech design, meaning your flash hole your breech plug has a flash hole, just like we mentioned. So when you ignite that primer and try to push your powder and projectile forward, most of that debris goes forward. But because of the open breech or the flash hole in the breech plug, there will be sometimes some debris try to come backwards. And what we realized is because of the amount of chamber pressure that our long-range muzzleloader built, that it would erode out the flash hole and cause a little bit excessive blowback at times. So we redesigned that breech plug with that tungsten carbide insert that eliminates that problem forever.
That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah. Wow.
Huge.
Well, the magnetic bolt, I lost a Veriflame adapter in the woods out of a tree stand, fumbling around with my cold fingers a couple years ago. It went down in the leaves, never to be seen again. So just those little innovations, I think that's brilliant. That's brilliant stuff.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And all that's impressive, Tony. So for me as a listener, listening to this and you talking about the pressures and the Blackhorn 209, what kind of loads on Blackhorn 209 are you talking about with this Endura?
So for Blackhorn, so I'm of the mindset that if you're driving down the road listening to this podcast, going to your next destination, your vehicle says that it'll probably on the speedometer maybe run 120 miles an hour. In theory, that's all fine and good, but it probably handles better at about 65 or 70. And muzzleloaders have always been that way. Yes, we have a maximum load that we don't want to exceed. But just because, the Tool Man Taylor syndrome where bigger's better and all that kind of stuff, it doesn't really work so well in muzzleloaders. You absolutely can run it to the maximum load. It will get you more muzzle velocity, but a lot of times in the muzzleloading world, it would actually push the projectile a little too fast and cause erratic behavior, and your grouping may not be as good. Yes, you'll have more muzzle velocity. Yes, you'll have more kinetic energy, more knockdown power. But at the end of the day, the critters we're after they don't know how fast we hit them. They know where we hit them. So for me personally, in the muzzleloading world, I don't ever shoot a maximum charge. I always start on the low side and then work my way up till I find the greatest. And it may not be the lowest, but it most time will never be the highest.
Right.
So for Blackhorn 209, we've done a ton of testing of 98 grains by weight of Blackhorn 209 up to 112 of Blackhorn 209. Again, this is by weight. Again, advancements. If you're new to muzzleloading or been in it forever, you've heard volumetric weighing, and that is basically where you have a little brass measuring tube and you pour the powder in, and that is volumetric weighing. Today, because of the advancements that we've seen in muzzleloading, we're now weighing our powder, which has this very, very specific weight down to the 10th of grain. In volumetric weighing, you cannot do that. It's going to be a kind of rough estimate. Yeah, it's 98-ish, or it's 112-ish. So now we're weighing our powder because Blackhorn 209 is in only loose form. So now we're weighing 98 exactly. And typically, if I'm trying to figure out my load data of what my gun prefers, I will start out at the lowest, 98. I mean, you can do less than that, but 98's a really good load. Most of the ones that I shoot 98 in because it really likes it. But I have one that particular likes 92 for some reason. So you can play with loose powder. That's the greatest thing about loose powder is you can play with it. And typically I do 2 grain increments. If I do 98 and it's pretty good, I'll do 100. If it gets worse, then I'll go back to 96. But we've thoroughly tested with 98 by weight and 112 by weight. And then typically the biggest question is that we get often is muzzle velocity. 98 with a 285 grain power belt ELR bullet. I'm getting about 2290 feet per second or muzzle velocity out of that. When I get up to my top end of 112, the recoil increases, but also the muzzle velocity increases. And 112 gets me about 2,430 feet per second. And again, that's muzzleloading advancements at its best, because back 20 years ago, 1,800 feet per second was pretty strong for a 50 caliber muzzleloader. And now we're talking 2230 at our top end and 2290-ish, give or take a few, on my pet load of 98 grains by weight. But here's the greatest thing about the Endura, and we're talking advancements. We get this question often and have for many years since the Paramount was introduced. And if you really dug into the muzzleloading world, you know there's these muzzleloaders they call a smokeless muzzleloader. And we've been asked many times, are we going to ever enter that field of smokeless muzzleloaders? Basically, when I say smokeless muzzleloaders, the powder or propellant is smokeless powder, the same in a centerfire rifle cartridge. And again, we had 2 years off to figure out where our next step was going to be. And just so you're clear, the CVA Endura is very capable with Blackhorn 209 and also smokeless powder.
Well, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That is a total game changer. So now when we're at these trade shows and everybody comes up and asks us, and how many times do we get asked this question when we're at the Great American? Can you shoot smokeless powder in it? Can you shoot smokeless powder in it? Well, I've been doing it for years. Well, we don't recommend that. I've been doing, and. So now CVA is making a gun, the Endura, that can shoot smokeless powder, which is centerfire rifle powder.
Absolutely.
All right. So you know what's coming next, don't you, Tony? What? Because I reload
Good
bullets,
chance.
right? Yeah, I reload bullets, and I know that every bullet has a different powder. Every bullet, whether it's a BC 110 or an IMA 4816 or whatever, I can't think of any right now, but every bullet has a different powder and a very specific load, right? So I hope you're going to answer this in a way to say, we recommend this powder at this load so that we're not putting the wrong powder in there. Because there are pistol powders, there are rifle powders, there are fast burning powders, there are slow burning powders. There's so much when it comes to smokeless powders. So tell us how that all came about and what we're recommending to use and why it's better.
So yes, you kind of hit the nail on the head with a bunch of the worries that we had or thoughts that we had going into this. We wanted to make sure that we did an extreme amount of testing in different smokelesses. And I come from the muzzleloading world my whole life. Yes, I shoot centerfires too, but muzzleloading is my passion. So sitting down at a reloading table, which I have a gun bench right on the backside of this camera that I'm staring into right now. My mind is always moving and running, that I've never felt comfortable sitting down and trying to understand the smokeless powders, because there are so many. They all have different burn rates, chamber pressures, ignition timings, all that kind of stuff. So when we talk about smokeless, I want to make sure that you guys listening here or watching the podcast, you need to be present when you're playing with smokeless if you're not a comfortable reloader. You don't need to be worried about what's on Instagram. You don't need to worry about that. You need to be present when you're talking about smokeless. So we have tested very thoroughly and extensively for 2 years, and we have 2 powders that is in our recommended loads. These are the ones that I recommend you stick to, and also the weights, but they are very safe and very efficient. So the 2 that we have found that plays the best with us is IMR 4198. And that's 58 to 63 grains. And that's weighing it out, obviously. And then Vitavori, pretty fancy name, Vitavori N120. And that's 50 to 55 grains. And these here, I have shot both of these many, many times. I tend to lean towards the lighter IMR 4198 at 58 grains and Vitavori N120 at 50 grains. Big question is muzzle velocity. That's been a hot topic. Now, because we've built these high performance muzzle loaders, that people are pretty wound up about how fast they run. And I get it. Horsepower, drag cars, how fast will they go? So with the 50 grains of the Vitavori, it's 2,340 feet per second. At 55 grains of Vitavori, it's 2444 to be specific. And then you got the IMR 4198 at 55 grains, it's 2406. And then with the 63 grains of the IMR 4198, we're at 2530, which is rocking and rolling for a 285 grain bullet.
Wow. 2530.
I mean, it's a center fire rifle, right?
That is kinetic energy like you can't imagine, with a 285 high BC bullet rolling down the mountainside at 2530.
Right.
But again, just like in Blackhorn, I feel like my best accuracy is in our entry level loads, 50 with the N120, a Vitavori N120, and then 55 with the IMR 4198. One thing that this is, as we started this endeavor 2 years ago, the biggest thing for me is I'd never shot a smokeless muzzleloader, and I've seen several of them come and go over the years of working in the muzzleloading industry. One thing that let me just back up. The most important thing that everybody talks about is they don't want to clean. They don't have to clean. I get it. Muzzleloading, it don't bother me. That kind of comes with the territory of having to clean a muzzleloader, but it is high on the radar of people not wanting to clean muzzleloaders, and I do get that. But what I guess enamored me more about it once we started playing with it is try to say this and not redneck terminology. The decreased recoil was impressive to me. I would think a bang is a bang, whether it's, these loads are very equivalent to each other, even though the Blackhorn has more weight of powder in it. The muzzle velocity is very equivalent. I mean, we're averaging about 120 feet per second difference between Blackhorn and smokeless, but the lack of recoil or lack of as much recoil in comparison to Blackhorn 209 was very impressive to me. I figured, again, not being a smokeless guy, that the instantaneous ignition of smokeless, because so when I say that, both of them ignite quickly, but muzzleloading propellants, in theory, are designed to burn in 16 inches of barrel length. So it's a boom. It's an elongated boom. It's ignition and then boom for 16 inches. Smokeless is boom. That's it. There ain't no boom. There's no elongated boom. There's no drug out boom. So I figured that the recoil would be much sharper on my shoulder because it's more instantaneous, where muzzleloader, I hear it all the time, I feel like it's more of an engaged push because of the elongated burn or ignition boom, where smokeless is right now. So I figured it would throttle me pretty good, but actually the recoil is less. So I was very impressed with that.
So,
Wow.
so does that? So it probably sounds like a rifle then when you shoot it, right? Doesn't sound like a muzzle.
You know, I can't physically hear a big difference in between the two, because Blackhorn 209, the ignition point is it's high, but it's also an instantaneous ignition. So even the Blackhorn 209, probably a distance, you probably won't know it's a muzzleloader either anymore, because it used to be the snap boom of muzzleloaders, and you go, oh, yep, that guy just shot a muzzleloader on the next farm.
Yeah, right.
That went away with Blackhorn 209, I feel like.
That's true. Now, I would think, too, there's times where I shoot at a deer, and I'm convinced I have a good shot, and then the wind blows the right way, and I can't see anything, right? So that eliminates that as well.
That eliminates that, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sure does. You know, that's always been a bit of a concern, too, for muzzleloader hunters, because especially when you back up to the older powders, the Go X's, the Pyrodexes, the 777s. I mean, they smoke like you was on fire. Blackhorn was less smoke than any of the other propellants, so it wasn't as bad, but it still was a concern and a problem. And yes, you know, as hunters and outdoorsmen, ethics is high on our radar, or at least I hope it is. Yeah. So understanding where our shot impact is very important to me as an outdoorsman. And sometimes with a muzzleloader, it's if the wind is wrong for you, you get a bunch of smoke that comes back in your face, and you can't see impact.
Yeah, where did it go?
This last year on this, where'd it go? Where'd it hit him? And knowing that you call your buddy, hey, I just shot the big one. Where'd you hit him at? Did you make a good hit? I ain't got no idea. Smoke everywhere.
Yeah.
Not only that.
So yes, that goes away with smokeless powder.
Yeah, and you don't know which way they ran, if they ran, because of the smoke. That's the thing that upsets me, is I always feel like I make a pretty good shot. But now, did he run this way or did he turn and go that way? And when you go to look, you don't even know where to start on the trail. But the smoke is one of the things I like about the muzzleloading, is because it does that. Yeah. But there's all right.
I can't disagree with that comment. I do like it too.
I do.
And
so you got
smell of it.
You got, yeah. So you got two different kinds of Enduras, right? Or two different models, I guess would be the right thing to say. Correct.
Correct.
So tell us about the differences in those and which one I have to have.
So so there is two different versions. We have the Endura LRH and we have the Endura Pro. Just so you're aware, the Endura LRH and Pro barrel action is the same. So there's not going to be accuracy increased between either one of them. The barrel actions are the same. They are a nitrided barrel system, means they're going to be impervious to corrosion, and that's because of weather or the powder. So it's nitrided, so the inside of the barrel is coated identically to the outside of the barrel, so you're not going to have rust exterior or interior. On top of that, both barrel actions are Cerakoted with a tungsten Cerakote, so the Cerakote is amazing. But the biggest features in between the two, the LRH and the Pro, is the LRH, we make 100% everything on that gun. The barrel, the bolt handle, the stock, the trigger shoe, the sears inside the trigger, the butt pad, the spacers for length of pull adjustability. We make everything on that gun in particular. And the Pro, being it is a bit more upgraded version, one thing that we take into consideration that when folks are dealing with these long-range, high-end muzzleloaders, they do like to put custom triggers in them. I am a bit of a trigger snob. I do like a really good, crisp, clean trigger. Our LRH comes with our custom trigger. It is fully adjustable. Average is going to be about 2 pounds, 4 ounces with no creep or over travel. So even though we make it, it's not a custom aftermarket version, but it still isn't a very amazing trigger assembly. But in our Pro version, we don't make everything on that gun in particular. The stock itself is a gray bow stock. I believe it is a Eagle design. So it's a custom stock made here in the United States. And the trigger assembly is basically a custom trigger assembly. It is a Trigger Tech that's adjustable down to, I believe, 6 ounces up to 4 pounds. And it's very easy to adjust, no gunsmithing, nothing like that. So it's a great upgraded trigger assembly. So the Pro is basically, if you want to customize your gun, it is the one that's already been customized for you. Both of those stocks have adjustable cheek pieces. That way you can run high-end optics on it with 30 millimeter tubes or 34 millimeter tubes with 56 millimeter bell ends and all these big fancy optics that people are running today. You can, in fact, run those with the adjustable cheek piece and keep a good solid cheek weld on whichever model that you prefer. Both have adjustable length of pull in the back end. So basically, they have spacers that are 1/4-inch spacers that you could remove so you can make it fit you specifically. So a lot of adjustability between the two. There's 2 big features that will give you the deciding factor of which one is best for you. Number one, weight. Obviously, muzzleloaders are not light. The Endura Pro comes in at like 8.5 pounds. The Endura LRH, which is a black stock with a tungsten spider webbing on it, it comes in at about 10.5 pounds. So it's about 2 pounds difference between each gun. But also the price range. There's a separation. One's about $1,600, the other's about $2,100, give or take, for the Endura Pro. So there is a price difference and a weight difference. So it comes down basically, performance-wise, there's not a nickel's difference in either one of them. It comes down to what the weight you prefer and then what your billfold can handle, basically.
Right. Okay. Now, you said the Pro's trigger is 6 ounces to 4 pounds. The LRH is fully adjustable as well. What's the range there?
It is. So it's going to go from about 2 pounds, 2 ounces up to 3.5 pounds.
Oh, okay. Okay. So just
so it doesn't have the full range of adjustability, and it adjusts about the same way. It has a exposed Allen head screw on the front side of the trigger shoe, or the actual curved portion of the trigger that protrudes down. There's an Allen head there that you can adjust it very easily. So no gunsmithing required on either adjustability.
Right. Oh, that's great.
And point of reference there, it doesn't take a lot of adjusting to get a big result. So if you're at home and you're thinking, I'm going to adjust this trigger, and you just gone from 4 pounds to 1 ounce, and it's going to fire when you're not ready. So it just micro adjustments on that.
I feel a cool thing about that too, Pete, is the fact that when these guns, both of them come to you, unless you're just an absolute over-the-top trigger snob, they're going to be perfect for you out of the box.
Yeah. Every CVA I've ever had was that way. I put the trigger scale on it, and they're always 1.8 to 2.2 right out of the box, and it's just perfect.
Yeah,
perfect. I do have a question about something you said, Tony. You mentioned that the inside of the barrel is nitride coated also. Did I hear that correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
All right.
And coating does that affect maybe a little bit of a loose word.
Okay. I was just wondering how that would affect the lands and grooves if it's coated instead of smooth and polished. Okay,
so let me do just a touch of a deep dive into that to give you a little bit of history on nitride process if you or the listeners are not familiar with that. So basically, the nitride process started in the, we'll call them black gun market, the AR-15 style market, and they're called black guns because they're black. But they're black not because they got painted. They're black because they went through a nitride process. In layman's terms, nitride process is a big fancy word for a salt bath. And basically, anything that is like a stainless steel, so the barrels on these Enduras are a Bergara barrel. stainless steel Bagar barrel that we run through a nitride process or salt bath, which basically changed the molecular structure of that stainless steel. So inside stainless steel, not to get too deep dive into chemistry, but stainless steel has carbon inside of it. So any kind of nitrided barrel that we have on any of our guns, we have it also in other break open models as well. But that basically is a stainless steel barrel run through a salt bath or the nitride process, and it basically pulls the carbon that is black from the interior of the stainless and brings it to all exterior surfaces. So you have two exterior surfaces on a barrel, the outside that you can see and the inside that you cannot. That's why nitride process is so amazing for muzzleloaders, because the inside is black as the outside, and it's not a coating that we spray on. It's actually part of the barrel itself. So it's not like we try to spray something down the middle of it. The greatest thing is it's impervious to weather, snow, or late season inclement situations that we're in as outdoorsmen also. But if you are running a non-smokeless version of propellant, you won't have any rust or corrosion inside because of that coating. So it does not affect the grooves and lands. Now, the grooves and lands are put into the barrel before they go through the nitrile process. But again, that darkness that you see, aka the coating, not coating, but aka the coating, is evenly distributed internally and exterior because it's naturally part of the barrel anyways from the beginning.
Okay. Thank you for that.
That's a great explanation. Yeah.
That's a really good explanation. This guy's got so much knowledge, man. It's amazing. One last question in this. All right. So if I am shooting a smokeless powder during a muzzle loading season, I would think I would need to check my state and see, is it black powder only or is it muzzle loading? Because if you're still pushing the projectile down the barrel, makes it muzzle loader.
It's still muzzle loading.
Right. It's still muzzle loading, but in my state, South Carolina, it's, because I looked before we got on the show, it says black powder season. Right. So that tells me I have to shoot black powder. It doesn't say muzzle loading or primitive weapon. It says black powder season. So I want to say to the listeners, make sure in your state that if you choose to get this and use smokeless powder, that you are legal. Right. You can still get the Endura and shoot Blackhorn 209 in it, right, during black powder season, but make sure that you're legal. Is there a better way to say that, Tony?
No, so you're spot on. You do need to check your state rules and regulations every year because they do change. And one thing that I'm seeing being so deep into the muzzling world is muzzling rules and regulations have been very out of date for a long time. They are now starting to adjust and come more forward thinking. But there still are several states across this great country that during a muzzle loading season or primitive weapon season, it still has to be a black powder propellant. That's why that when we built the Endura, we built it with the sheer thought process that in states that have allowed smokeless to be in their world, this gun will shoot it very effectively, very accurately. But if your state is black powder propellant only, this gun will shoot Blackhorn 209 very effectively and very accurately.
Yep. Right.
No,
and you can still use it during firearm season, right? So even if you're in a state that has straight wall cartridge only during firearm season, this is still a muzzle loader, so this would still qualify. Correct?
In most cases, if you're in a hypothetical firearm season, any lesser weapon is available to be used. But again, I found some here lately, just doing a deep dive, that some states won't let you use a bow during gun seasons, which coming from the South, that's kind of odd to me that you couldn't use a lesser weapon. So again, pay attention to your rules and regulations, check them often. And so here's a case in point. why you need to check rules and regulations. This is off the topic of centerfire, but it is talking about rules and regulations that get changed. So we talked about my love for Wyoming. Every year I hunt southeast Wyoming for mule deer. I've been hunting that season, which is a centerfire season that I typically have used muzzleloaders in for a long time. That season has been October 1st opening day for over 30 years. It just got pushed through, and they changed that season till October 20th of opening day, and we just now got notified of it last week.
So it went from October
very
1
late change.
From October 1 to October 20?
Yep.
Wow.
And they literally just announced that this week, like 2 days ago. So, I mean, our hotels are booked. Our trips are planned. The guy that I go with, his vacation is already planned for leaving on September 29th, like we do and have done for the last 30 years. All that's changed now because they just passed it. It just passed through and come to fruition last week. So, yes, always check your rules and regulations because they can change, and they don't have to notify you. It's your job as a user of that outdoor time in whatever state it is you're going to be up to speed on those regulations.
That's a big change. That's a big change.
Man.
Wow. Well, Tony, this has really been a very informative show. On a lot of levels. And this new CVA Endura, like I said in the preface of this, is CVA is always innovating, always ahead of the game. And now here you come out with this Endura that is just incredible, that it'll shoot black powder or smokeless powder out of the same gun and get almost identical performance out of it. And that's just amazing in itself. And at this price point, because other smokeless firearm other companies that make smokeless muzzleloaders are 3 times that price. They are $6,000 and up, and that's the low end. And here you are coming in at $1,500 and $2,100, depending on the model. Again, CVA is just leading the way.
Well, we appreciate you very much. And yes, that was, when we took the time off, or took the paramount time off the shelf to re-innovate things that we knew that we needed to do. Keeping it at a price point that just did not tear your pocketbook up has always been on the forefront of us. I feel like we've always been blue collar America's muzzleloader manufacturer. But we didn't want to change that same process with the Endura. Yes. Is it more expensive than any other muzzleloader we've ever built? Yes. But we're still a third less than our competitors with equal performance.
Yeah. No, I'm blown away. I mean, it's funny because I had a Wolf way back in the day, right? So I have one at the house now. I gave it to my son, but every CVA muzzleloader I've acquired, I've wanted because at the time they were innovative. I got an Optima Elite, interchangeable barrels. I got the Acura V2 because it was one of the first guns I saw that was nitride treated, and I was like, "That's amazing! I'm tired of rust," And then I got a Paramount, and I'm just like, I don't know. I'm a little blown away because I'm like, how do you improve on the Paramount? And you guys, it sounds like you did it.
Yeah,
you did it. What's next? I mean, my goodness. It's
well, next is a fully automatic muzzleloader. That's next.
That may take another decade or two.
That may take another decade. Tony Smotherman with CVA, great gentleman, and just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to muzzleloaders, and he's led the way for decades in that space. And Tony, thank you again for joining us here at Christian Outdoors. Do you have any closing comments? Tell people when this will be available and where it will be available.
So yes, thank you, Pete, and I appreciate you so very much. I appreciate your diligent effort and continue pushing forward with the word from the man upstairs and making sure everybody understands how important he is in our lives. Also, your hard work and diligent effort in keeping the outdoor voice alive through podcast. I know that from the outside looking in, it's easy. You get a microphone, a computer, bam, you're good to go. You're a podcaster. But at the end of the day, it's a whole lot of work, and I appreciate both of you guys very, very much. I know it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of preparation to do this, so I appreciate that more than you know. But for the Endura, it will go live September 2nd, 2025. So probably by the time you're listening to this podcast, it's already headed to dealers' shelves.
Okay, so they'll be able to get it from any of the dealers once it becomes available in early September.
Yeah, yes, Pete. So what I would imagine happens, I don't work on the sales side of things, so I don't see how the mechanics of the sales process works, but I got a pretty good understanding. And I feel like because the Paramount has been wanted so long for the last couple of years that the dealers are standing in line waiting for the Endura. So I would imagine that everyone that we built up today in our factory there in just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, I feel like that they're going to go straight to dealers immediately. So they will be on store shelves ASAP, and it won't be a trickle. I know the number that we have already built up and completed. It's going to be a load that hits the store shelves in September.
Awesome. Tony Smotherman, thank you for joining us here on Christian Outdoors. Be looking for this Endura at your local dealer. When this show comes out, it will already be released. So just by a couple of weeks, but giving them a little bit of time before this comes out. So Tony, thank you for joining us.